Welcome to Hochoka Podcast.
What happens when a high school senior meets a professional trainer and coach in the fields of youth development, forensic psychology, social services, mental health, juvenile justice, and education? We're here to find out. Hello, Matakiepi. Welcome to Hochoka here at the center of St. Joseph's Indian Schools campus. I'm your host, Scott Wooster.
My name is Basil Eagle Star, and I am a senior in the St. Joseph's High School program. I live here on campus, and I attend the Chamberlain Public High School. Today, me and Scott will be your hosts.
Right on. We're glad you joined our circle today for our special get-to-know-you with Basil and Mark Freado. And Mark here has 4 decades of experience in services to young people and their families, and he and I have been talking on Hochoka several times about some topics that we think might be of interest to our viewers. And we're going to let Basil take over the studio today and talk to him just a little bit about some of the things that Mark does with LSCI, Life Space Crisis Intervention, which is a strength-based approach to working with young people. And so a warm Hochoka welcome to you again, Mark.
Thank you again, Scott.
Nice to meet you.
And you, Basil. Thank you.
In the first part of our time here, we just want to get to know you, Mark, and so we're going to do, would you just tell us, thumbnail sketch, your life story in a few minutes here? Right? That's the quick version.
Just only mildly constricting.
Yeah.
I have been doing this work for 4 decades, more actually, to be, make myself sound as old as I really am.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this work in lots of different ways that I've done it. I grew up in southwestern Pennsylvania in a steel mill town back when we used to make steel, in places like that, in a very multi-ethnic place that prepared me for the world. It's a place that is still home for me in my heart, although I've lived in different places. And so I really enjoy my work. It's taken me all over the world and given me an opportunity to meet, a lot of wonderful people, colleagues, and who have now become my longtime friends. So I really enjoy that quite a bit. Mm-hmm. I'm also the father of 4 adult children and the grandfather of 5-point-something grandchildren, and another one is coming in January. So that takes up a lot of my personal time when I'm not on the road. Mm-hmm. I love to spend time with my kids and my grandkids especially.
Nice. So that was a good start. Beautiful start. But there are some things I'm missing about you right now, so would you like to play a game of Rapid Fire?
Sure. So
basically, it's just a game. I'm just going to shoot you some questions, and you just answer them in a quick sentence or one-word answer,
Oh, I'd never do that. I'll try to keep it concise.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
So, the best kind of music.
The best kind of music, I grew up on classic rock stuff, and I really like that. But in terms of genres, my favorite genre is probably blues.
Oh, nice. Your favorite food?
Oh, that's a hard one. See, I'm a very eclectic eater.
Yeah.
I'm pretty indiscriminate. I eat lots of things. I like lots of different ethnic foods. I'm partial to Italian. And you really can't go wrong with barbecue.
Oh, yeah. You're not wrong. So, what's the best advice you've ever given?
The best advice I've ever given? Well, when my kids were small and I would see them off to school, I would always say, do your best, have fun, I love you. And I did that pretty consistently. And I think they adhered to that pretty well. Now, as an adult, working with other adults who work with young people who have important needs, I always tell people to listen. Listen very carefully, ask small questions, and pay attention to the answers.
And with that, what's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice I ever received was probably from my father a long time ago, who was a really sort of simple and powerful man who had some challenges in his own young life. And he would consistently tell us, be loyal. Be loyal to your family, be loyal to your friends, and be responsible. Take responsibility, do what you're supposed to do. I heard that a lot growing up.
So, what is failure to you?
Failure is inevitable.
Inevitable.
Failure is going to happen. Everybody in their life experiences failure. And so failure also is an opportunity for learning and growth and character building.
Nice. So, what is success to you?
Success is something to be celebrated. Success is something that to be really valued, it's something we have to earn. We have to earn through work, through effort, and it's also something from which we can learn and build character.
Nice. What's the most regrettable thing you've ever done?
Ooh, man, that's a...
Here we go.
Well, that's really a hard one because I tend to not focus on regrets. Mm-hmm. There is a story that I tell that I will just let suffice for that because there's been a lot of things. I try not to focus on regrets or carry those with me. But I had an occasion as a young man where I was in a restaurant, and it's a place that I had been a lot, and there was a server there who was a wonderful woman. She was just very, very nice, always kind. I was with some friends, and there may have been alcohol involved, and I found myself in a moment where I was extremely rude. I was extremely rude to her. It was also a shame experience for me. So I remember it, and I share this story many times in my training. When we talk about shame and regret and things like that, I later that night or early in the morning, I really experienced a great deal of shame about that, and I really felt badly for a couple of reasons. One, foremost, I was really rude to this very nice woman who was always nice to me, and she was totally undeserving of my rudeness. And then I experienced shame because not only did I do that with her, but other people saw that. Mm-hmm. And I resolved in that moment that as much as I could, no one would ever see me like that again. And so for me, that shame experience, that regret turned into a motivator. And fortunately, I've never repeated that circumstance. So I learned a great deal from that regrettable experience.
Mm-hmm.
First off, forensic psychology. That sounds a little bit intimidating to us and probably the viewers. So do you want to just, how do I say this?
I can explain it as best as I know. Yeah. Well, essentially, forensic shows up in front of lots of different words. Mm-hmm. Forensic psychology, forensic medicine, forensic investigator, various things. And basically what it amounts to, and the simplest explanation is it's the sort of the intersection between, in forensic psychology, the intersection between psychology and the law.
Yeah.
And so in my work, what I do is I don't do sort of the profiling that you see happen on the TV shows, which is pretty interesting and exciting. My work in forensic psychology is to work with young people who are in a great deal of trouble and try to understand as much as possible. Because a lot of times when kids get in trouble, one significant incident is the focus, and that's where a lot of attention and a lot of weight is given. I and my colleagues believe that understanding the developmental pathway of a young person, how did a young person get to this place, and what can be done to help them grow and learn through that. And so we do this a lot of times in court and juvenile justice, sometimes to keep kids from getting kicked out of school. So it's really helping us develop a deeper, broader understanding of the experience of a young person and what they need.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it true that your early work in a residential setting has something to do with who you are today? Can you briefly explain that to us?
Absolutely. I had no intention of doing this with my life. My plan was to go to law school. My plan was to go to law school in Pittsburgh, and spend my life doing that. Well, before I went to law school, I took a job working with young people in a residential setting in Pittsburgh. And I thought, I'll do this for 9 months. So I made a 9-month commitment, which in residential care people find regrettable but acceptable. So I thought I will do that, and then I'll just go to law school because that's what I intended to do for a long time. But then somewhere in that 9-month commitment, 2 significant things happened. One is we got new training in a positive, strength-based philosophy of care that turned us from what we were to teacher counselors. And at my heart, at my core, no matter what all the jobs I've had and the different titles I had, I'm still a teacher counselor. The second thing that happened is the kids that I was working with touched my life in ways I never imagined. I didn't see it coming, and I realized the significance that they were having in my life. And so I found a sense of purpose, and that's a powerful source of energy in one's life, to have a sense of purpose. So I realized this is what I'm supposed to do, and I haven't changed my mind after all these years.
Nice. So this is just a personal question, but I just wanted to know if you ever blamed yourself for what happened to your family, and like if you did, how did you come to terms with it?
Well, I was really fortunate because I did experience some trauma in my early life. My mother got sick and died, and over about a 2-year period. And that's trauma. That's a significant loss that, quite honestly, still affects me today. But in that context, what happened, she got sick, and she struggled with cancer at a long time ago when we didn't know as much or couldn't do as much about that, and she eventually died. I never blamed myself for that because I realized that not only I didn't have anything to do with what happened. I did struggle a bit with the times I couldn't see her, that I didn't see her, maybe some choices that I made to not visit. But the reason that trauma, while it certainly hurt, and it's still a part of me today, the reason that it didn't get worse is because I was surrounded by love. Yeah. I was surrounded by people, my father especially, who experienced great adversity in his life, and he basically kept us together. And that's where that value of loyalty to family really started to be really brought to bear in our lives. And so, and we were surrounded by love. We had, my Aunt Joanne and our neighbors and lots of people who cared about us and really helped to soften the trauma that happened. So, in those occasions, I did a lot of stupid things as a kid, and that has its own implications. But in terms of things that happened in my family, I was really protected from that. I was not really allowed to see things in terms of my siblings' responsibility.
Yeah. Okay. First off, love and loyalty is just one thing you gotta love. It's a powerful thing. But recently, I started to gain an interest in welding as a career, and the only thing that motivated me to pursue welding was getting the work on hand. What's the word? First hand. So, what's one motivational thing that happened in your life for you to pursue your career?
Well, as I mentioned before, those 2 significant things that happened, the kids touching my life in those ways, and then becoming a teacher counselor, and that concept is a powerful concept. While I was still young in this work, I had an experience with a young person I worked with. I worked with sort of young adolescent boys, and I had a boy named Joe who I had him probably between the ages of 12 and maybe 15. And at some point when he was still young, I think he was actually still about 12 years old, he had come from an adoption that had failed. The adoptive parents sent him away, and they didn't want him back. And he kept running away. Yeah. He kept running away to their house, and they didn't open the door. as I talked to them and said, please tell him, and they wouldn't tell him, and they said, you tell him, and so I did, but it didn't do any good. So one evening I learned that he was going to run away again. So I talked to him and said, don't run away. Yeah. And I gave him bus money. Now, as I said earlier, to Scott, I would probably get in a lot of trouble for that. Yeah. I didn't ask permission. So I gave him bus money, and he rode to the other side of town. I also gave him money to call. And he went to their house, and they didn't open the door. He went to neighbors' houses saying, remember who I am, and seeing if anybody would take him in. And I knew this because people called our program and told us that was going on, and that was difficult. And then he took the bus back, but he took it to downtown Pittsburgh, and we were on the north side of Pittsburgh, and he had been out in the east end of Pittsburgh, and he called me from some slider burger place, and said this is where he was, and I said okay, I'll come and get you. Yeah. So I drove my car down to that place, and we sat in a booth in the back, drank hot chocolate, and cried. And when we went back to the program, I had a totally different, deeper, more important understanding on what the experience of some of these young people with whom I worked, what that was like. And it was nothing like anything I ever experienced or had to endure. So that for me was a very deep experience that really gave me an appreciation for the value that work that people like us do and who we might be able to be in the lives of kids.
Yeah. Okay. I can vouch for the student on that one, because there are some house parents here that I have a strong connection with, and it's not a joke. It's just you have a strong connection with, just because how much they've been there for you, and how much you see them as an actual parent. So absolutely. I can vouch for that.
Good. That's important.
It's good stuff, Basil.
Yeah, it's important for them and you.
Absolutely. So I think we'll wrap it up now, and I just want to say again, everything that we got to talk about was great. Mark, I can't thank you enough for being here at Ho-Choka. You were dynamite. For as good as you were, Basil, you were better than both of us, but you're always dynamite. Basil's the best. So
absolutely.
It was good to have both of you here in Ho-Choka today.
Yeah, it was great to have the experience to be with you.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, by the way. Very good.
Wopila, guys. And to our viewers, we're so thankful to have you here in Ho-Choka, here at the center of St. Joseph's Indian School campus. And this is the place where we talk about Native education and what's important there today. So until next time, stay centered.